Welcome to the Native English Flow. I'm Sheem, and today we're going to talk about how to speak English fluently every day. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe because we upload new videos regularly to help you improve your English every day. This episode will help you improve both your listening and writing skills as we share some real-life stories and examples. Let's jump in. Do you ever feel nervous when speaking English? Or maybe you find it hard to find the right words in a conversation. You're not alone. Everyone has faced this challenge at some point. But don't worry, today, we'll talk about easy ways you can speak English fluently in everyday situations. I'll also share a few stories to help you feel more confident. Let's start with a simple question. Imagine you're at a coffee shop ordering your favorite drink. How do you say it in English? Is it I want a coffee or could I please have a coffee? Which one sounds more natural? Let me share a story. A few months ago, I went to a coffee shop with my friend Laura. Laura is from France, and she is learning English just like you. When she ordered her coffee, she said, "I want a coffee." The barista smiled but gave her a confused look. She repeated it, but this time she said, "Could I have a coffee, please?" And the barista responded with a big smile. "Sure. That sounds much better." From that moment, Laura felt more confident when speaking English. She learned that small changes in how we say things can make a big difference in how people understand us. So how can we speak more naturally in English every day? The key is practice and using phrases that native speakers often use in conversations. For example, instead of just saying I want, try saying could I have or I would like. These phrases sound more polite and natural. Now, let me tell you about my friend David. David is a native English speaker, and I asked him how he speaks so fluently every day. He told me it's not just about knowing the words, but about using them in real-life situations. He practices speaking English with his colleagues at work, with his neighbors, and even when he's grocery shopping. This constant practice helped him build fluency in his speech. So how can you practice speaking English in your daily life? Start by using English in small conversations. For example, when you go shopping, try saying things like, "How much is this?" Or, "Where can I find the milk?" These short questions will help you feel more comfortable using English. Let me share another story. A few weeks ago, I went to a supermarket with my husband. While we were looking for some vegetables, I overheard a conversation between two people. One said, "Do you know where the tomatoes are?" And the other replied, "They are in the third aisle next to the cucumbers." I thought to myself, that's a great example of how we use simple everyday English to communicate. It made me realize that we all use these simple phrases in daily life, and we can use them to practice speaking English more fluently. Another great way to improve your fluency is by listening to others. When you listen to native speakers, pay attention to how they say things. What words do they use? How do they ask questions? For example, when someone asks you, "What's up?" you can respond with "not much" or "I'm just relaxing." These are casual and friendly responses that you'll hear in everyday conversations. Fluency also comes from understanding how English speakers think. For example, when talking about your day, you might say, "I went to the gym," or "I had lunch with my friend." English speakers often use simple sentences to describe their daily activities. By practicing this, you'll start speaking more naturally, just like a native speaker. And don't forget, it's okay to make mistakes. My husband used to make a lot of mistakes when speaking English, but he never gave up. The more he practiced, the better he got. His secret? He practiced every day. Now he speaks English fluently without thinking twice. One last tip for today is to find a language partner. You don't have to be perfect right away, but talking to someone in English every day will help you improve your fluency. You can practice with a friend, a colleague, or even someone you meet online. The more you speak, the more confident you will become. So remember, Fluency in English is all about practicing every day, listening to others, and using simple phrases in real-life situations. By doing this, you will gradually improve your English skills. Stay consistent, and you'll see great progress. Let's continue. I want you to imagine this. You wake up in the morning, and the first thing you do is get ready for the day. What if you try to describe your morning routine in English? For example, you can say, I wake up at 6 o'clock. I brush my teeth. I make breakfast. These are simple sentences, but they help you build confidence and fluency. Let me tell you about Emma. She's a nurse who wanted to improve her English. She started a small habit. Every morning as she got ready, she talked to herself in English. She would say, now I'm putting on my shoes. Now I'm drinking tea. It felt strange at first, but after 1 week she could speak English more easily and with fewer pauses. It became part of her daily life. Now, think about your own day. What do you usually do in the afternoon? You can practice by saying things like, I go to work, or I cook lunch. If you're a student, you might say, I study English, or I read a book. Saying these things out loud helps your brain get used to thinking in English. Let's talk about Brian. He works in an office, and he wanted to improve his English speaking skills, but he didn't have a lot of free time. So he found ways to use English during his normal day. When he answered emails, he tried to write them in English. When he had to explain something to a coworker, he tried using simple English words, and every evening he spent 5 minutes talking to his wife in English. After 1 month, he felt more confident at work and even started helping his team with English communication. You see, speaking English fluently doesn't mean using difficult or long words. It means using clear and simple English in daily life. When you do this every day, your brain starts to think in English naturally. This is how fluency grows. Now, I want to give you a small practice. Think about your kitchen. What can you say in English? Try saying this with me. This is my kitchen. I have a table. I have a fridge. I cook food here. See how simple that is. You can do this in every room in your house. It's a great way to learn vocabulary and practice speaking at the same time. Let's hear another story. One of our listeners, Leo, sent a message last week. He said he started talking about his house in English for just 2 minutes every morning. After 2 weeks, he could describe everything more clearly. He said, now I can speak about my home without stopping to think. That's fluency, being able to speak smoothly without feeling stuck. You can also practice by pretending to talk to someone. For example, imagine you are helping a guest at your house. You can say, welcome, please sit down, would you like some water? This kind of role play helps you get ready for real conversations. If you live with someone like your wife, your husband, or your family, try speaking English with them for 5 minutes every day. Even if they are not learning English, they can help you practice. You can say, let's speak English while we eat, or let's try to talk about our day in English. These small moments make a big difference. And remember my friend Henry. He used to feel shy when speaking English. He told me, I always worried I would make a mistake. But then he decided to speak anyway. Every day he talked about his job in English. He would say things like, today I met a new client or I wrote a report. Now he speaks English confidently, and he's no longer afraid of making mistakes. You don't have to wait for a perfect time to speak English. Start now with the things you already do. Talk about your day, describe your surroundings, ask simple questions, and give simple answers. The more you speak, the easier it gets. So here's a small task for you. After listening to this podcast, try to speak for 1 minute in English. You can talk about anything simple, your room, your lunch, your plans for tomorrow. Don't worry about grammar, just speak. This small practice will help you become more fluent over time. All right, let's dive deeper into how you can speak English fluently every day. I'm going to share some real-life stories and examples that will make it easier for you to practice speaking and help you feel more comfortable. Now, if you are feeling like you don't have time for these kinds of practices, don't worry. You can start small and still see results. Think about something simple you do every day. Maybe you walk to work or go for a run in the morning. You can practice speaking English during these activities. For example, if you're walking, you can describe your surroundings in English. The sky is clear today. I can see the park ahead. There are a lot of people walking with me. These descriptions don't have to be long, but by doing this every day, you'll get used to speaking English in a natural and relaxed way. Speaking English every day also helps you get used to different situations where you may need to use English. Imagine you're in a grocery store. Instead of just thinking in your head about what you need to buy, practice saying it in English. For example, you could say, I need to buy milk, bread, and some eggs. I also need to get some tomatoes for dinner. You might be surprised at how helpful this practice can be. Next time you go to the store, you'll already be prepared to ask for help in English or give simple directions in English if you need them. Let me tell you about Emma, another friend of mine. Emma is from Australia, and she's been learning English for several years. She told me that one of her best methods for improving her fluency was practicing small conversations every day. At first, she didn't think it was a big deal. For example, she would call a friend and say, Hi, it's Emma. How are you today? Or what did you do this weekend? These are simple questions, but over time, Emma noticed a huge difference in how easily she could have conversations in English. Her sentences became longer, and she didn't have to stop to think about the words as much. The more she practiced these simple conversations, the more fluent she became. And she didn't just practice with friends, she practiced whenever she had a chance. For example, if she was in the car, she would pretend to talk to someone in English. She'd say, I am driving to the store now. I need to pick up a few things. Practicing with these small conversations helped her feel more comfortable with English in any situation. I also want to talk about how you can use English when you're working or studying. For example, let's say you're studying English grammar or vocabulary. Instead of just reading the material, try saying the sentences out loud in English. For instance, you can say, This is my vocabulary notebook. Today, I'm going to learn 10 new words. By speaking the sentences as you study, you'll reinforce what you've learned. When you need to use those words later, they'll be easier to remember because you've already practiced saying them. Remember, the more you speak English, the easier it will be to use in your daily life. You can practice while driving, cooking, or even cleaning. If you have a partner like a husband or wife, you can practice speaking with them even for just a few minutes each day. It doesn't need to be a big, just try to use simple English to talk about your day, your plans, or even your thoughts. Here's something you can try today. Pick one simple activity like making breakfast or walking out outside and describe it in English. You can say, I'm making pancakes. I need some eggs. I'm putting syrup on top. Keep doing this every day, and you'll start to notice how easy it becomes to speak English naturally. Even if you don't feel perfect at first, remember that fluency is built little by little through constant practice. The more you speak, the more natural it will feel, and you'll start speaking English with confidence every day. Now, let's keep going with this practice. You can do it. Just keep talking, keep practicing, and remember that fluency is a journey, not a destination. The more you speak in everyday situations, the better you'll get. So let's continue on this path and remember to practice whenever you can. Let's dive deeper into the idea of practicing English every day. This approach doesn't have to be difficult, and it can easily fit into your daily routine. In fact, the more you speak English, the easier it becomes to use the language naturally in real-life situations. So let's explore a few more examples of how you can fit English practice into your life, just like many people do. These everyday activities can help you build fluency and confidence without even thinking about it. First, let's talk about James. James is a teacher and his work requires him to speak English to his students every day. However, before becoming a teacher, he wasn't very confident in speaking English. To improve, he started using his commute time to practice. Instead of just listening to music or the radio, he would talk to himself in English during his drive to work. James would describe what he saw on the road. "There's a red car in front of me. The weather is sunny today. I'm passing the bakery now." At first, it felt strange to speak aloud by himself, but over time, it became a routine. By the time he arrived at work, James was already in the habit of speaking English, and it helped him feel much more confident when he had to speak to his students during class. This story is a great example of how you can use small moments like your commute to practice English. You don't need to make big changes to your routine. Just add a little English practice into what you're already doing. If you drive to work or school, take advantage of that time to describe things out loud. Or if you take public transportation, use that time to think in English and mentally describe what's going on around you. By incorporating English into the things you already do, you'll get better at using it in real situations. Another example comes from Claire, who works as a software developer. Claire didn't feel very confident speaking English, but she knew that practicing every day would help her. So Claire set a simple goal. She decided to talk about what she was doing at work in English. For example, if she was working on a coding project, she would say things like, "I am writing code for the new website. I need to test the features later. The code looks good so far." Even though she was working alone, Claire found that this practice helped her remember technical terms in English. It also made her feel more comfortable speaking to her colleagues in English during meetings. By describing her work process in English every day, she gained fluency in a specific area of vocabulary, which made her feel more confident and professional. If you're someone who works in an office or does any kind of professional work, you can take a lesson from Claire. Try talking about your daily tasks or professional goals in English. Even if no one else is around to hear you, practicing speaking out loud will help you get used to using English naturally. For instance, if you're preparing a presentation for work, you could practice speaking your ideas out loud in English just as if you were presenting to a colleague. Or if you're writing an email, you could speak the message aloud before typing it. The more you practice this, the better you'll get at expressing yourself in English, especially in professional settings. Now, let's talk about Emily, who is learning English as a second language while also working as a nurse. Emily's job requires her to speak to patients and colleagues every day. So, she decided to use this as a way to practice her English. She would think about the things she needed to say before she said them. For example, before going into a patient's room, she would quietly rehearse in her head what she was going to say, like, "Good morning, Mr. Smith. How are you today? I'm going to check your blood pressure now." At first, Emily felt a little awkward, but with time, she got used to practicing these phrases in her head before speaking. This routine helped her build confidence, especially when she had to speak to patients in stressful situations. It also helped her learn important medical vocabulary and improve her ability to communicate in English at work. This strategy is useful for anyone working in a job where you need to communicate with others in English. Whether you work in healthcare, business, or another field, taking a few moments to rehearse what you're going to say in English can be a great way to practice. For example, if you're about to make a phone call to a colleague, you can rehearse your message in English before picking up the phone. Or if you're preparing to explain a complex idea, you can practice saying it out loud in simpler English. This can help you become more comfortable with the language and improve your fluency in real-world situations. But what if you're not or commuting every day? Don't worry, there are still plenty of ways to practice English in your daily life. One simple thing you can do is to start journaling in English. Journaling doesn't have to be long or complicated. It could be as simple as writing a few sentences about your day, like, "Today was a busy day. I went to the park and met with some friends." For anyone who works in an office or needs to write emails regularly, writing short messages in English is an excellent way to practice. You don't need to write long paragraphs. Even a few sentences a day will help. This practice not only improves your writing, but also helps with your fluency when speaking, as writing allows you to organize your thoughts in a clear and structured way. Let's consider another example. Emma, who works as a customer service representative, speaks to customers in English every day, but she was finding it hard to sound confident and fluent during calls. To build her fluency, Emma decided to practice common customer service phrases and responses before her shifts. For example, she would practice saying, "How can I help you today?" Or "I'll look into that for you." Emma would repeat these phrases out loud, making sure she said them clearly and confidently. At first, Emma felt a bit silly repeating phrases like this, but she found that it made a huge difference in her calls. By practicing these common phrases, she built her confidence and was able to focus more on helping the customer instead of struggling with her words. Emma also made a habit of taking a few minutes after each call to review the phrases she used and think of ways to improve them for next time. This practice helped her feel more fluent, and she started to notice that her conversations with customers felt more natural. If you work in customer service or any field where you interact with people regularly, practicing key phrases in English can be a game changer. You don't have to memorize everything, but having a few go-to phrases that you can use during conversations can help you feel more confident and fluent in real-life situations. Finally, let's look at how Richard, an avid reader, used his love for books to improve his English. Richard loved reading mystery novels, but he was having trouble understanding some of the vocabulary. To solve this problem, Richard started reading the books out loud. Whenever he came across a new word, he would pause, look up its meaning, and then practice saying the word and using it in a sentence. He also started reading aloud to his wife, explaining the plot and characters as he went along. This not only helped him understand the books better, but also improved his pronunciation and speaking skills. Richard found that reading out loud in English was one of the best ways to improve his fluency. It allowed him to practice pronunciation, learn new words, and speak with confidence. This practice also helped him improve his writing skills, as he was able to learn how to use new vocabulary in sentences and organize his thoughts more clearly. Reading aloud is an excellent strategy for anyone learning English. You don't have to read novels. You can start with simple books, articles, or even your favorite blogs. The key is to make reading out loud a regular part of your day, as it helps you build both your speaking and comprehension skills. By now, you can see that there are many ways to incorporate English into your daily routine. Whether it's talking to yourself, writing emails, or practicing specific phrases, the key is consistency. Every little bit of practice helps, and the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Whether you're learning English for work, travel, or personal growth, these everyday practices will make a huge difference in your fluency and confidence. So keep going, stay consistent, and watch your English improve over time. Continuing to build fluency in English every day might seem like a big task, but the key is to incorporate simple, enjoyable activities into your routine. These small habits will gradually make English feel like a natural part of your day. Let's continue exploring how real people like you and me can integrate English into our everyday lives. For example, Mark, a software developer, faced a common challenge. He had to communicate with international colleagues in English, but wasn't confident in his ability to speak fluently. His job required him to attend video conferences and write emails, which made him nervous. Mark knew that he needed to improve his speaking skills, but he didn't have the time to take formal language lessons. Instead of waiting for a perfect opportunity to practice, Mark decided to take action during his commute. These activities became a win-win situation. Sophie was able to practice English, and her children were learning it too. Sophie's approach teaches us that fluency doesn't always require structured lessons or hours of studying. It's about integrating English into your daily life and making it a natural part of your routine. You don't need to study for hours at a time. Simply talking, reading, or listening in English throughout your day can make a significant impact. Just like Sophie, you can use everyday activities as opportunities for language practice. Next, let's look at Peter, a young university student studying business administration. Peter had always struggled with English, especially when it came to speaking. He felt nervous when it was his turn to speak in class, and he often worried about making mistakes. To overcome his fear, Peter decided to make a habit of speaking English every day, even if it was just for a few minutes. At first, he didn't feel very confident, so he started by talking to himself in English. He would describe what he was doing like, "I am reading a book right now," or "I'm going to make some coffee." This might sound a little strange, but it worked for Peter. By speaking English to himself, Peter became more comfortable with the language and started feeling less nervous when speaking with others. Over time, Peter began practicing with his friends. They would meet for coffee after class and speak only in English for an hour. Even though some of them made mistakes, they didn't mind. The important thing was that they were practicing together, and this made Peter feel less self-conscious. Peter also found that joining an English-speaking study group helped him a lot. When he prepared for exams or worked on projects with his friends, they would discuss the material in English. This gave Peter more chances to speak and interact in English in a comfortable setting. By practicing English in a group, Peter built his fluency in a supportive environment where everyone was focused on improving together. Peter's experience demonstrates that overcoming the fear of speaking in English is often about taking small steps and making it part of your daily routine. Speaking to yourself or with friends, even if it's just for a short time, can help you build confidence and fluency. The more you practice speaking, the less fear you'll have. If you're nervous about making mistakes, remember that everyone makes mistakes when learning a new language. It's all part of the process. In addition to speaking, listening is another crucial aspect of becoming fluent in English. Sarah, a social worker, struggled with understanding English in real-life conversations. She found it challenging to follow fast-paced discussions or understand different accents. To improve her listening skills, Sarah started watching English language news every morning while drinking her coffee. She found that listening to news stories allowed her to hear English in a variety of contexts and with different accents. At first, it was difficult for her to understand everything, but she didn't give up. Over time, Sarah became more familiar with different accents and the speed at which native speakers talked. She also learned to pick up on keywords, which helped her follow the conversation even if she didn't understand every single word. Sarah also started listening to English podcasts, especially those that featured casual conversations. Listening to podcasts allowed Sarah to hear the way native speakers interacted in everyday situations, which was very different from the formal language used in textbooks. By listening to these podcasts regularly, Sarah improved her listening comprehension and began to feel more comfortable in conversations. Conversations. Sarah's approach shows that improving your listening skills takes time, but it's worth it. By regularly exposing yourself to English through news, podcasts, or other audio materials, you can train your ears to understand different accents and conversation styles. As with speaking, the key is consistency. By making a habit of listening to English every day, even for a short time, you'll gradually notice improvement. Now, let's explore how writing can also play a vital role in improving your fluency. David, who works as an engineer, found that his writing skills needed attention. Although he could speak fairly well, his written English was less polished. To improve, David started keeping a daily journal in English. At first, it felt like a chore, but soon he began looking forward to writing. He would describe his day, talk about his work, or even write short stories. Writing every day helped David improve his grammar and sentence structure, while also expanding his vocabulary. The more he wrote, the more natural it became for him to express his thoughts in English. David also started writing emails and messages in English, even when they weren't required. For example, if he needed to send a message to a colleague, he would write it in English, even if they were both comfortable with their native language. This extra practice helped David get used to writing in English, and he noticed that he made fewer mistakes over time. Writing in English every day not only improved his fluency, but also helped him express his ideas more clearly. David's experience teaches us that writing can be just as important as speaking and listening when it comes to becoming fluent in a language. By writing every day, you can strengthen your language skills, improve your grammar, and become more comfortable with expressing yourself. Whether it's keeping a journal, writing emails, or completing writing exercises, regular practice will help you improve your overall fluency. In conclusion, fluency in English comes from consistent practice, and you can practice English in many different ways. Speaking to yourself, having conversations with friends, listening to podcasts, watching the news, writing in a journal, these are all simple ways to incorporate English into your daily life. It doesn't matter if you're a busy professional, a student, or a parent. By making small adjustments to your routine, you can improve your English skills every day. The key is to stay consistent and make English a natural part of your day. The more you practice, the easier it will become. And soon enough, you'll notice that speaking English fluently is second nature to you. Let's continue exploring how you can integrate English practice into every part of your life and build fluency. As we go deeper, you'll see that improving your English doesn't need to be overwhelming. It's about making gradual, manageable changes that you can stick with every day. We've already discussed how you can use moments during your day to practice, and how speaking, listening, and writing can improve your skills. But now, let's explore even more practical strategies that will keep you on track toward fluency. One key point that everyone should understand is that fluency is not about speaking perfectly, but about speaking comfortably and naturally. Lucy, a nurse working in a busy hospital, realized that she was getting stuck when trying to explain medical terms to her patients in English. She spoke well enough for daily communication, but when it came to specific terms, she often found herself searching for words or not understanding the patient's questions clearly. So Lucy decided to set specific goal. She would focus on one new word or phrase each day. For instance, she might focus on learning the names of medical equipment or on phrases commonly used when interacting with patients. She would look them up, write them down, and try to use them during her shifts. Instead of waiting until she felt fluent, Lucy aimed to just add one small piece of vocabulary to her daily routine. Over time, Lucy found that her ability to speak comfortably improved. This method shows that you don't have to learn everything all at once to be fluent. Fluency is about consistency. Just like Lucy, you can take small steps, one word or phrase at a time, and build your fluency gradually. When you break down the challenge of learning English into smaller parts, it becomes much easier to manage, and the progress you make each day will soon add up to significant improvement. Another approach to learning English every day is to set aside some time specifically for language practice. But instead of thinking of it as study time, think of it as a time to relax and enjoy the process. For example, Jack, a software developer, started setting aside 15 minutes in the evening to read articles about technology in English. At first, he didn't feel confident with all the technical jargon, but he continued reading every night. By doing this, he exposed himself to the specific language of his field in a relaxed way. Over time, Jack became more comfortable reading technical content in English, and he found that his general English skills also improved. Jack's story highlights how it's important to make learning enjoyable, especially when you're incorporating English into your regular routine. By picking something that interests you, whether it's a topic related to your job, a hobby, or a passion, you can stay motivated and learn more effectively. He found that telling stories in English helped him speak more fluidly because he didn't have to think too much about grammar or vocabulary. The story would flow naturally, and the more he practiced, the more confident he became in his speaking. Tom's approach is a great example of how storytelling can help you learn English. You don't need to be a professional writer or speaker. Just start with simple stories about your own life. Tell the story in your head, and then write it down or speak it out loud. This method helps you focus on fluency and flow rather than getting stuck on perfect grammar. The more stories you tell, the more your fluency will improve. Another person who found success with storytelling is Emma, a mother who was learning English at home. Emma found it difficult to keep up with her language lessons, especially with her busy schedule. However, she realized that her children were a great resource for practice. Every night, she would read them a story in English before bed. This practice allowed Emma to improve her pronunciation and vocabulary as she would read the same stories over and over again. Sometimes her children would ask her questions about the story, and she'd have to explain things in English. This extra challenge helped Emma practice thinking on her feet and responding in English without pausing for too long. Eventually, Emma began feeling more comfortable with English, both when reading and when speaking to others. Like Anna's experience, Emma's story shows us that you don't need a classroom to practice. You can find opportunities to use English in your everyday life. Whether it's reading to your kids, chatting with a neighbor, or even speaking to yourself in English, using English in natural everyday situations can accelerate your fluency. A great way to improve your speaking and writing skills is through regular journaling. Let's look at Michael, a student who started keeping a journal in English. Every day, he would write about his thoughts, experiences, and dreams. At first, it felt challenging to express his ideas in English. However, over time, he became more confident. Michael noticed that his writing improved as he began using more varied vocabulary and grammar structures. Additionally, journaling allowed him to reflect on his day in English, which helped him learn how to structure his thoughts more clearly. Writing regularly gave Michael the chance to review what he had learned and apply it in a personal and meaningful way. Michael's experience highlights the benefits of journaling in English. It's a low-pressure way to practice your writing and thinking in the language. The more you write, the more you'll learn about sentence structure, vocabulary, and grammar. And don't worry about making mistakes. Journaling is private. Let's continue exploring some more powerful strategies for becoming fluent in English every day, starting with the importance of building a supportive environment around you. Surrounding yourself with English on a regular basis doesn't just help you learn faster, but it also gives you the confidence to practice without feeling judged. One great way to do this is by finding a study buddy or a language partner. Take David, for example. David is a lawyer who wanted to improve his English communication skills for his job. He often felt nervous speaking in meetings because he was afraid of making mistakes. To overcome this, David found a language partner who was also learning English. Every week they would meet for an hour, either in person or over a video call, and talk about different topics.